ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्ण पाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। In the last session, we started Bhagavad Gita with the introduction, and also we saw some of the dhyana shlokas. And as I told you last time, the dhyana shlokas are meant for the sake of upasana, and the dhyana shlokas are 9 in number. And these dhyana shlokas, we have about 2 dhyana shlokas singing praises of Bhagavad Gita itself. And we have 1 dhyana shloka where I offer my namaskaras to Bhagavan Vyasacharya. And then we have 1 offering our namaskaras to Mahabharatam as the Grantha. Mahabharata is of immense importance to us because we consider it as a Panchama Veda. It is considered to be the 5th Veda. So with that we gave our pranams, we offered our pranams to Mahabharata as the text itself. Now we have another 2 dhyana shlokas which are left and which are talking about Bhagwan Krishna. We had about 2 or 3 dhyana shlokas offering our namaskaras to Bhagwan Krishna, in which Krishna's personal aspects were talked about. How he is Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam. And we talked about Krishna being a Kaivartaka, whose grace is something which actually helped Pandavas to go across this Rananadi of Mahabharata war. Now we have the last 2 dhyana shlokas which talk about Bhagavan Krishna, but these dhyana shlokas are talking about 2 different things. In the next one, Mukam Karoti Vachalam, Madhusudana Saraswati, the composer of the dhyana shlokas, is talking about Bhagavan Krishna's grace or Kripa. Now, what is the meaning of grace? What is the meaning of Kripa? Kripa means that inexplicable, thus intangible something, that which cannot be explained, but which really makes the impossible possible. That which is a potential in me, that gets expressed or abhivyakta by the grace of Lord. And it is said that the grace of Lord or grace of Bhagavan has to be actually earned. And it is our punya by which we earn Bhagavan's grace. And this grace of Bhagavan Krishna, Kripa, is something that is being talked about in the next verse. Now, Kripa can be called as grace, or we call it grace in English, but we can call it as blessing, and it can also be called as that punya, daivam. There are many names by which this Kripa is known. Now, the next dhyana shloka talks about this Kripa, which says Mukam karoti vachalam पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्. Here, Tam Madhavam Aham Vande. I offer my salutations. I offer my pranams to that Madhava. Now, who is Madhava? Madhava is another name for Lord Krishna. Ma means Lakshmi or Dhanam, and the one who is the consort of Lakshmi, he is Madhava. So, the one who is actually Lakshmi Dhara, also we call the one who is holding or possessing this wealth, Lakshmi Devi or Shri. Ma also means Maya, and Maya, the one who has Maya under his control. Maya means Prakriti, Karanam, Prakriti. This Krishna, who is an Adhyaksha of Maya. So he says in some later chapters, Krishna says, Maya Adhyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Idam Characharam Jagat. He says. So under my stewardship, under my presidentship, or under my guidance, Maya actually creates this entire Characharam Jagat. Now we have to understand that this Madhava's Kripa, Tam Madhavam Aham Vande, what kind of Madhava is he? Paramanandam Madhavam. Paramananda Madhavam or Ananda Swarupa, Paramananda Swarupa Madhavam Aham Vande. And why? Yat Kripa, whose Kripa, whose Anugraha is going to make impossible things possible. And some examples of the impossible things are given. And what are these examples? Here, the Dhyana Shloka says, Mukam karoti vachalam. Mukam karoti vachalam. Mukam means the one who is incapable of talking. The one who is a mute actually starts talking. Now it may look funny. I mean, it may look as if, how is this possible? See, what I want to say is, if there is something which is very potential within me, and because of some obstacles, that potential is not able to express itself. In such a case, it is this grace or it is the kripa of Lord, Ishvara's grace, that helps the potential thing to manifest. And it looks as if the impossible has been made into possible. So here, Mukam Karoti Vachalam. There are so many stories also in our scriptures. Kalidasa was supposed to be a Muka, but with the grace of Saraswati, Kalidasa actually became a great poet, and he's called by the name Kaviratna. Now Valmiki was not mute, really speaking, but he was not a Kavi at all. He became a Mahakavi, but there was a potential in him and there were some obstacles, and the grace of the Lord is something which unblocked this potential in Valmiki, and he was able to create this Mahakavya of Ramayana. Like that, we have many instances where, the impossible has become possible. Pangum Langhayate Girim. Pangum Langhayate Giri means this Kripa of Madhava is capable of making even a lame person climb up a mountain. Now, what it means is that in spite of all my efforts, in spite of all my dhairya, pratapa, shaurya, and all my preparation and everything, but still I may not be able to really reach wherever I'm supposed to reach, and it is only Bhagavan's grace that helps me to reach where I'm. In that way, I think all of us are to some extent lame because we are all limited. We can do certain things to the best of our ability, but ultimately it is the grace of Ishvara that ultimately helps us to reach our goal. Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. So we can take that this our endeavor of starting Bhagavad Gita, just 2 classes are over and we have another 700 verses to go. It is like a lame person climbing up a mountain, and without the grace of the Lord, without the grace of the Guru Parampara, it is just highly impossible for this Herculean task to go on. So this is my namaskaras to that Kripa of Madhava. Then in the last Dhyana Shloka, there is this stuti of Lord Krishna in the form of Brahman itself, in the form of Nirguna Brahman. All this time we talked about Krishna and offered our namaskaras to him as a Swarupa, a Sarupa Ishvara, not in his Swarupa form, as a Sarupa Ishvara. Now, in our culture, in our scriptures, there are three ways in which we can access the Devata or the Upasya. First thing is called Ekarupa Ishvara Darshanam. That is, I am at a stage where I cannot think of the entire universe as a manifestation of the Lord. I cannot see the Swarupam of the Lord as a Nirguna, everywhere, all pervading Ishvara. At present, I am not able to take that. So I need a name and form as an alambanam, as something to hold on to. And I have my Ishta Devata for my Upasana. This is what is called as the Ekarupa Ishvara Upasana. Like all of us have our, different Ganapati or Devi or who. Then we have in our scriptures Vishwarupa or Aneka Rupa Ishvara Upasana, in which we look at this Ishvara as everything that is manifest here. And that is what Krishna showed in the 11th chapter in his Vishwarupa Darshana. And that is what we see in the Dakshinamurti Stotram in the form of Ashtamurti Upasana. And that is what we see in the Lalita Sahasranam, where every name is something which shows or which connects me to one or the other aspect of that particular Devata. Rudram, that we all chant, Rudram is also Aneka Rupa Shiva Darshana. So, in this way, we have Aneka Rupa Ishvara Darshana or Upasana. Now, the third one is what is called as the Nirguna or Arupa Ishvara Upasana, where we don't really see that Ishvara with a form, but we see that Ishvara as the very existence everywhere in this universe. And that is what is described in the last verse of the Dhyana Shlokas. And this says, Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sanga Padakramo Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginah Yasyantam na vidusura suragana devaya tasmai namaha. Tasmai devaya namaha. To that Lord Krishna in his Swarupa as that Brahman, to that Deva, devaya tasmai namaha. And who is that? Yasya antam, whose limits are not known by anybody. Yasya antam na viduhu sura asura ganaha. It is very difficult for even gods, deities, devatas, and also asuras, and for everybody to know that swarupam of this Lord, because this infinite Lord, Krishna, as the infinity, as his very swarupam, Anantam Brahma or Anantam Krishna, we are not able to really understand it. Even the devatas are not really clear about what is this Nirguna Swarupam of Bhagavan. So, Yasya Antam Na Viduhu Suraha Asuraganaha. They don't know. And how is this Krishna in his Ananta Ananda Swarupam? How is this Krishna worshipped? He says that he is worshipped by Brahma, Varuna, Indra. Yam, that Lord, Yam, Brahma, Varuna, Indra, Rudra, Marutaha, all these devatas, they worship this Nirguna or Arupa Swarupam of Krishna by what? By Vedaihi Sa-anga Upanishadaihi. They all worship this Krishna, Nirguna Rupa Krishna, through via Upanishads and along with their Upanishad Angas, Sa Anga Upanishadaihi. And the Vedis, or those who are actually the chanters of Veda. here Samaveda is mentioned here. The Samavedis or the chanters of Samaveda, how do they connect to this all pervading Nirguna Ishvara, Krishna Rupa Ishvara? How do they connect to that Lord? He says that Gayantiyam Samagaha, how? Samagaha, the Sama singers, the Samaveda singers, they sing the praises of this Nirguna Ishvara or Brahman. How? Pada Kramaihi, Vedai Sanga Padokrama Upanishadaihi Gayantiyam Samagaha. Now the Veda chanting is done in many forms. There is what is called as a Padapatha. Then there is something called as the Kramapatha. Then we have the Jatapata, and then we have the Ghanapata. So in this way, the Vedas are chanted in many forms, and all the chanters of the Vedas are trying to understand this all pervading Krishna or Brahman through Upanishads and through Vedas by reaching out to that principle of Krishna, Swarupa of Krishna, by chanting in different forms, Veda chanting in different forms. And such a Nirguna Ishvara, such an Ishvara, Krishna, who's in the form, who is nothing but Brahman, Krishna is also a manifestation of that Brahman, and to that Brahman, to that Krishna, my namaskaras. So you can see here the Dhyana shlokas have transformed, or they have transited from the grossest, that is from Bhagavad Gita itself as the Grantha of Upasana for Upasana, and from there they have gone to Krishna as a person, as a personal deity, and then Krishna Namaskaras in the form of Krishna as Vishwarupa, that Krishna which is in the form of everything that is in this universe, and then ultimately to that Nirguna Brahman Krishna, my namaskaras. With this, the Dhyana shlokas are completed. Now, by convention, whenever we start a Gita class, we generally chant the first verse, that is Bhagavad Gita verse, that is Parthaya Pratibodhitam, and then Yam Brahma Varunendra. So from next time, we'll have this particular pattern where we chant the first and the last Dhyana shlokas before we begin the text of Bhagavad Gita itself. Now we'll go to the first chapter. Now the first chapter is called as Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Now yoga is the name given to every chapter. Yoga means that which connects the person, the one who's studying Gita, to the content of what is mentioned in that particular chapter is named by that particular chapter, and it's called as yoga, every chapter, because it connects me to that particular content. So the first chapter is called as the Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Vishada means sorrow. Now, actually the first chapter is named Arjuna Vishada Yoga because it is in this chapter that we understand the problem that Arjuna finds himself in the field of Mahabharata war. And this is something all of us find ourselves in adverse situations. And Arjuna's raga, or emotional psychological dependence on certain people like Bhishma and Drona, and moha, his delusion, and ultimately his sorrow, shoka. Raga, moha, shoka is what is depicted as to what Arjuna faces at the end, and not means just before he starts the war. Arjuna has prepared himself for 13 years to fight this war, and a dharma yuddha like this is something every kshatriya is waiting for. But then what happens to Arjuna in the last minute, just before the war starts? What happens to Arjuna? That is depicted as Arjuna's Vishada. But unfortunately, this portion comes in the second half of the first chapter, from the 21st verse onwards. So then the first 20 verses are what then? The first 20 verses are the verses which are talking about the context of the Mahabharata war. The context in the sense here, who are the two parties? Who are the people who are fighting this war? Who were those warriors in each army? And all those things are mentioned. That is because it is said that Dhritarashtra, who was the blind king, wanted to know what was exactly happening on the battlefield. And therefore, since he was blind, Vyasacharya gave the capacity of seeing and hearing whatever is happening on the battlefield to a person called as Sanjaya. Sanjaya is the trusted aide of Dhritarashtra, the blind king, and the entire Bhagavad Gita starts with Sanjaya reporting whatever happened in Mahabharata war during the Bhagavad Gita Upadesha. It is Sanjaya who is actually giving the entire whatever he has reporting to Dhritarashtra, and Vyasa is giving this whole thing as that which is reported by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. The entire Bhagavad Gita is like that. Therefore, now the first verse is that where Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjaya to know what is happening on the battlefield. This is the only verse that we'll have to take with a little bit, not even detail, a little bit of explanation would be necessary. But from the second verse of the chapter 1 till the 20th verse is only talking about the arrangements of the war, and it is not really relevant for us, for people who are studying Bhagavad Gita. However, since this is a part of Bhagavad Gita, we cannot completely omit it. So after the first verse, I'm going to take the next 18 or 19 verses very, very briefly, because we do not really need them for our study. So in the first verse, what does first verse say? Here, Dhritarashtra, the blind king, is asking Sanjaya, hey Sanjaya, what is happening in this battlefield, or what happened in the battlefield? This is his question now. Dhritarashtra uvacha dharmakshetre kurukshetre samaveta mamaka pandavaschaiva kimakurvata Sanjaya. Hey Sanjaya, dharma kshetre, dharma pradhana kshetre, Bharatavarshe, it is dharma kshetre. In this Bharatavarsha, dharma pradhana kshetre and karma pradhana kshetre, Kurukshetre, wherever this is happening, the war is happening, taking place in this dharma pradhana, karma pradhana kshetre, Kurukshetre, samaveta yuyutsavaha. There are number of people who have gathered. Two armies have gathered. Yuyutsavaha, those who are wanting to fight. Yodhum ichuhu, the ones who want to really fight. They or this war for whatever reason. All of them are there, and this battlefield is full of people. Yodhum kamaha, those who want, who are desirous of taking part in this war, they have all gathered there. Samaveta yuyutsavaha. And hey Sanjaya, tell me, mamaka, mamakaha pandavaschaiva kim akurvata. What did they do? Who? Mamakaha, Madiyaha, my people. What did my people do, and what did the Pandavas do? See, here we see the symbolicity of this, or the symbolic depiction of Dhritarashtra's blindness. Yes, he was blind. Physically also he was blind, but then symbolically it shows that Dhritarashtra was blinded by his attachment to his sons. He was blinded by delusion that whatever his sons did was not really adharma. So he was blinded by this raga and moha, and he had completely lost the insight into what is dharma and what is adharma. So you have seen in the Mahabharata story that in every instance where his sons were doing so much of adharma against Pandavas, but still, as the king, Dhritarashtra did not really put his foot down. This symbolically shows his blindness. Who are Pandavas? Pandavas are ultimately his own nephews, his brother's sons, his own brother's sons. But then he does not consider them as mamakaha or mine. He says mamakaha Madiyaha, Mama Putraha, my sons, and the Pandavas, as if they are somebody else. It is like me, we versus others, we and the others. So the Pandavas became others. So Mamakaha, Pandavaha cha eva, kim akurvata Sanjaya, what did they do? Now, what is the need for Dhritarashtra to ask this question? Possibly Dhritarashtra has a very, very small hope against hope, that these Pandavas are ultimately, people who have a sense of dharma, and they follow dharma that even Dhritarashtra knows. So probably has some kind of a small hope that the Pandavas may ultimately decide to withdraw from the war, and the war may not take place at all. And he's expecting probably that. That's why he asks, what did my sons Mamakaha and Pandavas, what did they do? And the next 19 verses are going to be the explanation given by Sanjaya, reporting whatever happened in the battlefield. Here, I'm going to take it very briefly because today I want to come up till the 20th verse, so that in the next class we can really go to the second part, which is the real content of this chapter in the form of Arjuna's sadness, sorrow, or Vishada. So, Sanjaya Uvacha Drishtva tu Pandavanekam Vyudham Duryodhanastada Acharyam Upasangamya Raja Vachanam Abravit. So, Duryodhana saw, this is being reported by Sanjaya. Duryodhana saw the Pandavas' army. Pandava Anikam. Anikam means army. Drishtva, having inspected, having seen the army of the Pandavas, and Vyudham. Vyudham means the formation. See, an army is not a random accumulation of the soldiers. An army also has a properly designed formations of their troops. And in those days, they had four types of fighting apparatus in the army. It was called as the Chaduranga Anika. That means there were Rathis, the Rathas were there, then there were elephants, then there were Turaga or horses, and there were Padatis. So there were foot soldiers, there were soldiers on horses, there were soldiers on elephants, and there were fighters, great, fighters on in the Rathas who were fighting the war, and in various formations. So after having seen this, what did Duryodhana do? Acharyam Upasangamya. He went to his Acharya, Dronacharya. You know that Dronacharya was supporting the Kauravas. I have not gone into the details of this story because it's going to take a long time, but you all know that Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, they were all people who sided Kauravas. We saw that in the Dhyana Shloka also. Rananadi example, we saw that. So after seeing this army and their formations, Raja Duryodhana went to his Acharya and Vachanam Abravit. Raja Vachanam Abravit means Duryodhana talked to Acharya. Now, why should Duryodhana go to Dronacharya? Ultimately, the Senapati or the commander of Kaurava army is Bhishma. So why should Duryodhana go and talk to his Acharya Drona rather than talk to Bhishma? The reason is Duryodhana had a doubt about the loyalties of Dronacharya, because ultimately the Pandavas were Dronacharya's favorite Shishyas. Arjuna was his favorite Shishya. But for whatever reason, he was with Kauravas, who Dronacharya was siding the Kauravas, and therefore Duryodhana probably was not very sure whether Drona's loyalties were really with him or not. And therefore, he goes to Dronacharya and addresses Dronacharya. What does he say? Pashyaitam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyudham Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. So he says, hey Acharya, Pashya, please look, see, Yetam Panduputranam. Look at these Panduputras and there Mahati Chamum. Chamu means army. Anikam and Chamu both mean armies. Look at their vast Sainya. Look at their big army. Mahatim Chamum. And Drupada Putrena Tavashishena Dhimata Vyudham Pasha. The one, this Drupada Putra, that is Drishtadumna, or the brother of Draupadi, was the commander on the side of the Pandavas. And just see the Vyudhas. The Vyudhas means the formations that have been formed by the Senapati on that side. And now he wants Drona to see, have a look at who all are there. And then he describes all these Shuras by their various names and from where they are coming. It's not as if Drona does not know who are those people on the other side. But Sanjaya wants to say this to Dhritarashtra, that these are all the people who are there on Pandava's side. These are all the people who are there on Kaurava's side, important people. And by that, Vyasa is also telling us that who all were there in Pandava's army and who all were there in the Kaurava's army. So now he says, Atra Shura Maheshvasaha Bhimarjuna Samayudhi Yuyudhano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharatah. So there in that army, Atra here, there are lot of Shuras, very, valorous and people and courageous people who are Maheshvasas. Maha Ishvasas means the ones who are very good in archery. There are very good archers in that. And Bhima, Arjuna, Sama, Yudhihi. They are almost equivalent to Bhima, Arjuna. Archers of equal, Shauryam and Pratapam as much as Bhima and Arjuna in warfare, Yudhihi in warfare, Yuyudhano, Viratascha, Drupadascha, Maharataha. Like there are people like Virata Raja, Drupada, Draupadi's father, and they're all Maharathas. See, Maharatha, there are certain designations, like we have designations in our armed forces. Earlier also they had, that is Rathas, Maharathas, Athirathas they used to have. Like depending upon how many battalions of army they can control and what kind of a control they have on how many soldiers. So they used to have their own designations, and here were called as Maharathas. So they're all Maharathas who can handle a large section of army, who can handle a large section of formations, battalions of the army. And then who are the others? Then he's introducing the others also. Drishta Ketus Chekitanaha Kashirajascha Viryavan Puruchit Kuntika Bhojascha Shaibhyascha Narapungavaha. There are others also who are equally valorous kings who are fighting for the Pandavas. Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashi Raja, who is Viryavan, Purajit, Kunti Bhoja, Shaibya. These are all Narapungavas. That means they are all very exalted Rajas, kings who are capable of really fighting this war in a very, very good way. So, Shaibhyascha Narapungava. Then, Yudha Manyuscha Vikrantaha Uttamaujaschcha Viryavan Saubhadro Draupadeyascha Sarvayeva Maharathaha. So, there are others also. Yudhamanyuhu, then Uttamaujaha, then Saubhadraha. Saubhadra means Subhadra's son, Abhimanyu. Draupadeyaha. Draupadeya means Draupadi's 5 sons from Pandavas. All of them are also on the Pandavas side. Yes, they have to be because they're ultimately the children of Pandavas, these Saubhadra and Draupadeya. They're all very, very capable and valorous, courageous Maharathas. And then, so these are the samples of number of people that are there in the army of Pandavas. And who is saying this? Duryodhana is asking Drona to see all of them. And Sanjaya is reporting that these are the people who are on Pandava's side to Dhritarashtra. And Vyasa is reporting the same thing to us. Now, after having introduced briefly the main characters in the Pandavas' army, Duryodhana comes to his own side and he says, Asmakam tu vishishtaye tani bodha dvijottama nayaka mama sainyasya sanyartham tan bravimite. So, hey Dvijottama, you know that Dronacharya was a Brahmana. So, Dvijottama, hey, my teacher, Acharya Drona, Asmakam tu Vishishtaye. In our army, on our side, Asmakam, these are some very important people, Vishishtaye. And these are who? Nayaka Mama Sainyasya. These are all there as leaders in my army. And Sanyartham Tan Bravimite. I am going to just briefly introduce them to you. And then he says, भवान् भीष्मश्च कर्णश्च कृपश्च समितिञ्जयः अश्वत्थामा विकर्णश्च सौमदत्तिस्तथैव च. So he starts with Drona only. Hey Drona, Acharya, Bhavan, you are there in our army. Does Duryodhana have to say this? That I am going to introduce to those people who are there in our army, and he starts first with Bhavan. So you are there, reminding him that whatever may be your loyalties, remember that you are fighting for me and better you fight for me. So Bhavan, then Bhishmascha, Bhishma is there with us, Karanascha, Kripa is there. Who's Kripa? Samitinjayaha. Kripa, who's never lost any war anytime. Samitinjayaha. Ashwathama, your own son, Drona's son. Vikarna, one of the Kauravas. Saumadatti tathaivacha. Saumadatti, another king. And then Anye cha bahava shuraha madarthe tyakta jivitaha nana shastra praharanaha sarve yuddha visharadaha. Now he says there are others also. Anye cha bahavaha shuraha. There are many other shuras, dhiras in my army. No, who are nothing but epitome of courage, who are going to fight. And who are they? Why have they come here? Madarthe tyakta jivitaha. They are willing to even sacrifice their lives for my sake. Madarthe. For me to win, they are willing to sacrifice their lives. And they have nana shastra praharanaha. They are people who are armed with many astras and shastras. Shastra means that which you hold in your hand and attack, like gadha or like a sword. That's what is called as the shastra. Whereas astra is that which is released from the hand and it attacks a person in distance. And all these shuras are the ones who have many astras and shastras which they are capable of handling. Nana shastra praharanaha sarve yuddha visharadaha. Yuddha visharada. They are all very well trained in the art of warfare. In spite of this now, Duryodhana is a little nervous. You see, Pandava's army had only 7 Akshohani Sainyas. That means only a certain number Akshohanis. It indicates a certain number. And the Kauravas have 11 Akshohini Sainyas. And in the beginning, before the war, when Arjuna and Duryodhana both went to Krishna asking for help, Krishna gave them the choice to select whatever they wanted. And Duryodhana selected the army of Krishna. So all that army which he has, along with Jayadratha's army, which we saw last time, who really contributed to the manpower, they have an army which is much bigger than Pandava's army. And Arjuna was very happy with his choice of selecting Krishna to be on his side. And what was Krishna's condition? That I will be there with you in the war, but I will not take part in the war. In the sense, I will not use any shastra and I will not actually, engage in warfare with other. Naturally, if Krishna had engaged in warfare, it would be a very unequal war, isn't it? Who is Krishna after all? Kamsa Chanura Mardhanam. And if he's there, one Krishna is enough to destroy the entire Kaurava army. Therefore, it would be a very unfair war. So, what does Krishna say? He says, I'm going to be there, but I'm not going to be a part of the actual warfare. And therefore, Krishna asks him to become his Sarathi so that he can direct him and guide him as to where he has to go. So, here what has happened is, though Duryodhana has so many Shuras and Veeras and Astra Shastra Praharanaha are there and such a big army, still he is very nervous. So, in spite of such a big army, he says here in the next verse, Aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishmabhirakshitam paryaptam tvidame tesham balam bhimabhirakshitam. Somewhere Duryodhana has that nervousness. Somewhere inside he knows that this is adharma and what he's embarked upon may not really give him that jaya that he's looking for. And though his army is big, he says, Aparyaptam tadasmakam. In spite of such a big army, I feel there is some deficiency, the aparyaptam. And of course, our army is balam bhimabhirakshitam. Aparyaptam balam tadasmakam. This balam of ours, in spite of all this, I feel nervous about it. I'm not very sure about it. And we are protected by Bhishma as Senadipati. Whereas Paryaptam tu idam yetesham balam Bhima abhirakshitam. Bhima and others, they are the ones who are taking care of that smaller army. But in spite of their smaller strength of army, I feel that their strength is sufficient. Okay, so he feels that. He feels nervous about it. And therefore, he wants that Bhishma should be protected. He knows that without Bhishma, his army cannot really do what it is supposed to do, in spite of being in very large numbers. And therefore, Duryodhana tells his Acharya Drona that in any circumstance, at any time, Bhishma has to be protected because our army and our bala is abhirakshitam only by Bhishma. And without Bhishma, we will be otherwise totally aparyaptam. So in the next verse, in the 11th verse, he says, अयनेचुष सर्वेषु यथा भागमवस्थिताः भीष्ममेवाभिरक्षन्तु भवन्तः सर्व एव हि. Ayaneshu, in this war, everywhere, in this army, everywhere, yata bhagam avastita, wherever you are, in whichever part you people are posited according to the formation, bhishma meva abhirakshantu. May you see that at all costs, at all times, Bhishma alone is protected. When this is said, Bhishma, who was quiet, silent all this time, realizes and understands Duryodhana's diffidence. And to just give him a little bit of harsha and to sort of pep him up, what does he do? Tasya sanjanayan harsham kuru vriddhah pitamahaha simhanadam vinadyochai shankham dadmau pratapavan. Now we know that when we have to instill some kind of for a person to perform, the crowd cheers, shouts, come on, go, run, that kind of. So harsham sanjanayan harsham sanjanayan tasya duryodhanasya harsham sanjanayan kuru vriddha pitamaha. What did Bhishma do? Kuru vriddha, he's the senior most pitamaha, that's Kuruvriddha Pitamaha. What did he do? Simhanadam vinadyochaihi. Uchaihi, loudly, he screamed. He gave a scream like a Simhanada, literally as though he was trying to motivate and fill in some amount of courage in Duryodhana. And what did he do? Shankham dadmau pratapavan. And he blew his conch. Now, conch or a shankham is something which is auspicious. And in the warfare earlier, When the parties blew the shankha or conch, it indicated that we are ready. We are ready to start the war. The readiness to the war was expressed by blowing the conch. And also, in those times, the warfare had not only shankha, they had all other yuddha vadana. That means they had different instruments which were necessary to make a lot of sound. And these sounds were the ones which actually put people into action, like a whistle or whatever it is, like ready, steady, go and whistle, that kind of a thing. So here he blew his conch, saying that, don't worry, I am ready. I am ready to go and start the war. Then, when Bhishma blew his conch, what happened in the Kauravas army? ततः शङ्खाश्च भैर्यश्च पणवानकगोमुखाः सहसैवाभ्यहन्यन्त सशब्दस्तुमलोऽभवत्. So he says here, when the Kaurava army heard Bhishma blowing his conch, they started playing all the instruments, the vadyas that are there in which were used in warfare. Panava, Anaka, Gomukha, Bheri. These are all these drums and various kinds of instrument, drum instruments, stringed instruments, various kind of instrument. And he says, Sahasaiva Abhyahanyanta. All together they started making that sound. And Sa Shabdaha Tumalo Abhavat. And that sound was so loud that it was almost reverberating or echoing in the entire atmosphere. Then what happened after that when they heard this? Tata shvetairhayairukte mahati syandane stitau madhavah pandavaschaiva divyau shankhau pradadmatu. When they got the indication that we are ready for the war from Kaurava's side, the Pandava side also started. And here Vyasa says that tataha, from there, shvetaihi hayaihi yukte mahati syandane stitau. That means in that beautiful big chariot, golden chariot, which was driven by white horses, in that who were sitting on the Pandava side? Madhavaha and Pandavaha. Madhavaha and Pandava means here Arjuna. Krishna and Arjuna, who were sitting in that particular chariot, they also responded to this call of war by Bhishma by blowing their own conches. That means you are ready, we are also ready. So it was given as an answer by Krishna and Arjuna blowing their conches. And in the next three verses, the names of the conches of different people are given. That is not really necessary for us. Therefore, what I am going to do is from 15th to 18th verse, I am going to read them continuously, and I'm not going to really explain those verses because they're all the names of the shankhas of various people, and there are stories about why a particular shankha was called in a particular name. It is given. So I'm just going to read through it and then you will understand it by yourself. Panchajanyam Hrishikesho Devadattam Dhananjayah Praundram Dadmau Mahashankham Bhimakarma Vrakodaraha Ananta Vijayam Raja Kuntiputro Yudhishthiraha Nakulas Sahadevascha Sughoshamani Pushpakau काश्यश्च परमेश्वासः शिखण्डी च महारथः दृष्टद्युम्नो विराटश्च सात्यकिश्चापराजितः द्रुपदो द्रौपदेयाश्च सर्वशः पृथिवीपते सौभद्रश्च महाबाहुः शङ्खान् दद्मुः पृथक् पृथक्. So all these people, Krishna, Panchajanyam, Dhananjaya, Devadattam, and Bhima, Praundram, Ananta Vijayam, Yudhishthira, Nakula Sahadeva had Sughosha and Mani Pushpakau. So they all blew them, their conches. And when it came to Kaurava side, all the other Kauravas also started blowing their conches, but they did not tell. And here in Pandava army also, Kashi Raja, Shikhandi, Drishtadyumna, Satyaki, Draupadeya's and Subhadra's son, all of them, they blew their individual conches. That means now at this time, both the parties have shown their readiness to start the war. Now what happened? Saghosho dhartarashtraणam hridayani vyadarayat nabhascha prithivim chaiva tumulo vyanunadayan. All this noise of shankas, bheris, and then gomukhas, and all the various shankas, everybody, blowing. It was that noise which literally made the Dhartarashtras tremble. It's as though the Dhritarashtras, that is as though the sons of Dhritarashtra's hearts were pierced by all these Shankha Nadas. Here, Dhartarashtra means the sons of Dhritarashtra. Actually, that is the correct name for Kauravas. See, we normally by convention we say Pandavas are Panduputras and Kauravas are Dhritarashtra Putras. But actually, anybody belonging to the Kuru Vamsha is a Kaurava. And Pandavas are also Kauravas because Pandavas also belong to the Kuru Vamsha. But then, because they are Pandavas' sons, they are called Pandavas and they are also Kuru clan descendants. And the correct name for Duryodhanadi 100 Kauravas is Dhartarashtras. Dhartarashtra means Dhritarashtra's sons. And it is as though these Dhritarashtra's sons' hearts were pierced by this noise of all these instruments everywhere. Okay, then in the next one, in the 20th verse, we come to the transition. We'll do this 20th verse and then next we'll go to the actual portion of the first chapter from the next class. Atha vyavasthitan drishtva dhartarashtraन् kapidvajah pravritte shastra sampate dhanurudyamya pandavah. He says, now all those vyavasthitan, atha vyavasthitan drishtva, having seen all those people who were on the other side and who were blowing their conches, that is Dhartarashtran Kapidvajaha. Kapidvaja means Arjuna. Kapidvaja, the one who has Hanuman as an emblem on his Dvaja. He is Kapidvaja. And who has this? It is Arjuna's Ratha which has this Kapidvaja. So Kapidvaja stands for Arjuna. And when Arjuna saw all these Dhartarashtras assembled in front of him, Arjuna was ready, pravritte shastra sampate, ready to literally use his shastras and astras, just absolutely ready to go, raring to go. Dhanur udyamya pandavaha. He raised his bow as if to say, wait. When you raise your bow, it's as though they were ready to fight. And what happened here? That after seeing this, Arjuna raised his bow, raising his bow saying that, wait, I am not yet ready for the war. And what did he say? Rishi Kesham tada vakyam idamaha mahipate. Now Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra, hey Mahipate, hey Dhritarashtra, this is what Krishna and Arjuna are doing, and this is what Arjuna is now saying to Krishna. So, hey Mahipate Dhritarashtra, Arjuna, who was ready really to start the war, has suddenly raised his bow and he wants them to wait, and he's saying this to Rishikesha. That is, he's saying this to Krishna. These are all the various names of Krishna, Rishikesha, Madhava, we have shown. Of course, every name has a definite significance, and as and when we go further, these names are going to come again and again. And in those contexts, I will try to explain the meaning of each of these words or these names that are used for Krishna and Arjuna. And what was the Vachanam? What was that which Arjuna said to Krishna, taking his bow up? What did he say? Senayorubhayor madhye ratham sthapaya mechuta. Hey Achyuta, wait, I don't want to start the war yet. Please take my chariot between the two battle lines and park my Ratha there. Why? I want to see all those people who have come to fight against me. So, hey Achyuta, Achyuta means, O Lord, O Achyuta, the one for whom there is no Chuti, the one who can be depended upon in all our Laukika, Vyavaharika, karmas, we can depend upon him. That is also Achyuta. And from the Paramarthika Drishtya, Achyuta means the one who does not waste away, the one who is all the time there. Hey Achyuta, you are the most dependable one. And hey Achyuta, take my Ratha, Sthapaya, me Ratham Sthapaya, Senayoho Ubhayoho Madhye. Please take my Ratha to the middle of the Sena, and I want to see the other side also. Who are these people who have gathered to see, to come and fight against me, who are siding the side of Adharma? And this is the moment where this Arjuna, who has planned for this war for the last 13 years, who has kept his astras and shastras alive by mantra bala. You know, these shastra astras are not ordinary ones. These are the ones which are released by mantras. They are all mantra ayudhas, and they have to be kept alive by the mantras. And Arjuna has kept all his ayudhas alive by his mantra, by the mantras that were supposed to keep them alive all these years, raring to go, planning, and now suddenly he wants to see this. What is this? This last minute change in his mind. If this change in his mind was not there, and with the blowing of conches, if both the parties had started the war, then there would be no Bhagavad Gita for us at all. This had to happen, and Krishna had to play a mischief. He had to go and park that Ratha right in front of people whom Arjuna loved most. And he parked that Ratha right in front of Dronacharya, Kripacharya, Bhishma. Why did he not park the Ratha in front of Duryodhana or Karna? Then there was no need at all. So here, this is Daivam. This is where Arjuna's Shoka or Arjuna's Samsara had to be revealed by Vyasa. And therefore, this is the moment of change where Arjuna starts feeling the samsara of raga, moha, shoka, which is going to be the actual content of the chapter 1, which is Arjuna Vishada, which we will see in the next session. Now we'll complete with the Sabha Samapti Prarthana. Nandantu sadhaka sarve vinashyantu vidushakaa अवस्था शाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोस्तु गुरुः सदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।